Hey guys, so one of the questions that I get asked a lot is how we do poetry tea time, how to start a poetry tea time, etc. And so what I really want to address today is just the simplicity of the whole idea of poetry tea time and also ways that I've customized it for my family. So if you guys are interested, then stick around. So before I get into the different ways that I do poetry tea time for my family, I wanted to mention that today is a collaboration with Jessica from the Waldock Way. The reason that Jessica is the perfect person to collab with this video on is, or this video with, is because she really, I adore her. I love the way that she is so child-led with her sweet daughter, Emily, but also she manages to put in the things that she believes are important as well. It's this really great balance they have going on in their homeschool. She's definitely somebody who I look up to, and I absolutely love seeing little peeks into the different poetry tea times and activities that she and Emily do together. So I thought she would be absolutely perfect to collab on this video. So if you guys want to pop over to her channel when you're done watching this video, she really is just such a breath of fresh air, and I think you guys are really gonna enjoy seeing her video where I'm gonna be sharing kind of 3 different ways I customize it for our family and kind of an overview of each way. She, I believe, is gonna be walking you through the process of just she and Emily setting up for a poetry tea time, and I do know that Emily chose the theme and kind of prepared most of it herself. So I think you guys are really gonna enjoy that video. The second thing I wanna say is that there is a quick start guide, a general guideline for how to do poetry tea time that is available for free, and that is, I believe, poetryteatime.com. Poetry Tea Time was a concept started by brave writer Julie Bogart, if you're not familiar, and she has a free PDF that you can download. It's so simple, just a few steps like choosing a nice tablecloth, having nice ceramic teacups, how to choose the poetry, how to go about it, if you guys are wanting a more formal guideline. So what I want to share is kind of how I started with that and customized it to work for our family, because I am somebody who loves the idea of a great idea and a fun concept, as long as it's something that I don't have to stick to word by word. And what I love about Poetry Tea Time is that it's so customizable, and you can really just make it a launching pad for what works best for your family. So today I'm gonna share the 3 different reasons or ways that I do poetry tea time in our family. And then I'm gonna leave you with a few clips at the end that's a little overview or a sample of each of those different ways. Poetry tea time is really so simple, and the whole purpose of it is just to add this connection of delight and joy with exposing your kids to beautiful poetry and leading them into a place where they can write their own or read it without having to critique it. And I love that so much about the whole concept. I think the reason that I get asked so often about how and why, and it seems so complicated, is because the videos that I share on my channel are all of the clips of this first way we do poetry tea time, which is a themed poetry tea time. I only do a themed poetry tea time maybe once a month, and that could be themed like a holiday, or it can be themed to a unit study that we've done. So for example, the little clips that I'm gonna show you at the end is after we did a unit study on weather, and we had also read Rain in Summertime by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, so I put together a spring showers tea time. Again, that's only once a month that I do something like that. Most of the time, I'm not spending much time in the kitchen preparing things, but the reason that works for me is because I love Pinteresty, crafty things. If you don't like that, then don't do that. You can easily pull out Little Debbie cakes and pour some lemonade in teacups and have just a simple poetry tea time. So when I do a themed poetry tea time, it has to do with a unit study or a holiday that's coming up, or something that my kids are interested in, like Shark Week or bees. We've done all of those different themes, and you guys see those on my channel when I share once a month. And what I do for that is I choose a couple of poems that go hand in hand, and sometimes I also pull other resources, just like general books instead of just poetry. Sometimes we'll put on like audio, you know, YouTube clips of different poetry instead of us reading. And I'll just spread out the different poetry. We'll have a little bit of a theme and just have like a fun, and that's we usually do that on Fridays, every other Friday when we're doing an enrichment day in our homeschool. That's when we put in a little bit more effort to that formal themed poetry tea time. But I want to make it clear that we don't theme it out every week, because I don't want my kids to feel like it has to be so much, you know, pressure or so perfect. So that is the first way that we do poetry tea time, and it has to do with wrapping up a unit study or celebrating a holiday. The second way we do poetry tea time is just the classic poetry tea time. We work it into our day somehow. Oftentimes it'll be with breakfast or it'll be with lunch. I'll just put out a few you know, some fruit, some veggies, little finger sandwiches. My kids love cucumber cream cheese sandwiches, so something like that, pimento sandwiches cut up nicely. The kids really like to pitch in, and this is not a theme in general, but it's just tea time, and they all have their favorite little things that they love with tea time. So we'll all pitch in, put a few things together. We're not baking anything, we're not taking much time making anything extra special, and then we'll just pull some of our absolute favorite poetry books down, and we'll take turns, each of us reading a couple, or me reading to them while they eat. They kind of like to play, you know, play it up. They like to act formal. Jesse always sticks his pinky out just for fun. The kids like to have that boundary of it's like a fancy tea time while they're just enjoying listening to a feast of poetry. So this is not like our poet study. We're not just reading a themed poem. We're not reading just poems from one poet. This is just all of their favorite books. Like we've got you know, Robert Louis Stevenson and Shel Silverstein, and poets that they're just very familiar with, poems that aren't too difficult for them to understand, just beautiful thoughts and child-friendly poems. Every so often I'll throw something in there that they're not used to hearing, or something that's a little harder to understand, but that is just the general poetry tea time where we're kind of following the guidelines a little more closely, and that's at random as well. We don't do that on a set schedule, but every now and then, usually on like a Tuesday, the kids will say Tuesday tea time, and we'll just work it into the fold somehow. I love that they're gonna have that memory growing up together. Just a moment to be a little more formal and just enjoy listening to great poems. The third way we do poetry tea time is the way that we do it most often, and that is nature tea time, or just an outdoor tea time. And this comes so in handy when we're having a rough day and I want to scrap school for the day, or when we're going to do nature study, or when it's just a beautiful day outside and we don't want to be inside doing school. This one we do most often, but it's most often at random. I would say this is something we probably do once a week, and it is open the pantry. We'll all grab a few things out, put it together on a tray, pour some lemonade instead of tea, because we live in Florida and drinking tea outside is pretty uncomfortable, and go sit outside under our mango tree, go sit outside in our driveway, have a little trail mix, whatever, and just read some funny poems, some poems that the kids are very comfortable reading out loud, you know, where they can read and not come across words that they're unfamiliar with or anything. Just kind of give them that boost of confidence. We've got all sorts of fun little silly books. Just again, Shel Silverstein. I've got a book called Cookie Crumbs. We've got riddles and what is it, tongue twisters, things like that, that they just that are just funny. This comes always at a great time when we're just having a rough day in school and we just need to get outside. It gives us an opportunity to still be somewhat put together while also changing up what we're doing that day. It's a good introduction into nature. If we're doing nature study, I bring the kids outside, we'll read some poems, and then they're kind of becoming acquainted with the weather and the nature for that day. And then we often will spend much more time outdoors, because I didn't just send them out with notebooks and say, go do some nature study. When we sit outside and we have some sort of reason to be outside, slowly they'll start to wander, slowly they'll start to drift off, and that leads into a great time outdoors. But also, like I said, if we just need to get outside and we're having a rough day inside, it always lifts our spirits. It makes us happy. No pressure on me. Like, we're just pulling trail mix out of the pantry, or putting together some PB&Js and cutting them up, or like I said, Little Debbie. That's kind of like my go-to on days like that. Just box mix cakes, something quick, fun, easy. Get outside and enjoy one another, change our mood, change our atmosphere, bring in some silly thoughts, and sometimes we can come back in afterward and regroup. Sometimes that ends up being school for the day, and that's totally fine by me. But like I said, that's the one that we kind of do most often. And sometimes we'll just plan that for the end of the day, so it's something to look forward to. And that is the reason, specifically the reason why I love Poetry Tea Time so much, is because in that instance, when we take it outside and we sit under the tree and we just read some poems, that is my saving grace in a lot of my memories that could have been tainted in homeschool or could have been overly challenging. It's just been a reason to enjoy one another, something that everyone takes delight in, and it is just an instant mood lifter. So those are the 3 different ways that I do Poetry Tea Time. Make sure you check over on Jessica's video after this is over and see how they do Poetry Tea Time, and watch sweet little Emily set it up. I know it's gonna be a cute video. And then I'm going to leave you with a little sample of each of these different types of Poetry Tea Time. So here is an example of what a themed Poetry Tea Time looks like. This is on a Friday when we generally have much more time to work on this together. We call them Fun Fridays or Enrichment Fridays, and this is only once or twice a month. So we were studying weather for 5 in a row, and we were also studying rain in summer with our poet study, and so I just decided to put together a spring showers themed tea time. And for this, I just made some meringue cookies the night before, and I made them look like clouds. I'll link all of these recipes below that I share. I also just did a simple little Jello cloud. I mean, kind of looks like clouds. I'm not a Pinteresty mom, but I just did like a little Jello cloud cup, and then I put out multiple rainbow colored fruits and vegetables, and then we put out some books that had poems that went along with the theme, and then I also just put out some regular, lift the flat books and weather themed books, and we just had about an hour together at the table reading through these books, reading the poems together, and enjoying a little themed tea time. When we're doing a more formal Poetry Tea Time, or just like a classic Poetry Tea Time, then we take some time, set the table, make sure everybody's dressed nicely, hands are washed, all that jazz, and we take a little bit of time to put things together. So we put out our nice teacups, we make sure that we have the table set nicely, everyone's using their manners, etc. But we generally fold it into breakfast or lunch. And so for this idea, I wanted to share something very simple but impressive to kids, and that is just a waffle bar. So I made some Kodiak cake mix, put the waffles on the plates already. Everybody had real, ceramic plates. And then we just put out some fruit and then some Nutella and some marshmallow fluff. It looked elegant. It was very kid-friendly. It definitely took care of breakfast for the day as well. And then we sat down and read some more of our classic poetry books, some books that I've selected over the years and put together on our shelf just for more classic or formal tea times. So some of our favorite books, some I read to them. If they want to, they'll read them as well. And then we just have a more formal setting while enjoying a meal and also enjoying tea time. Because it's spring and it's coming up to summer, I wanted to do something different than tea with this video, so the kids made sparkling orange juice, and it's just a fun summer citrusy type of drink. So for this, all that they needed to do was pour in about a half a container of orange juice, and then they filled the other half with, you can use club soda, but I just used lime LaCroix, and then we squeezed a little bit of lime juice into it as well, and my kids enjoyed this in place of tea for this fun breakfast, brunchy themed spring tea time. And then the last Poetry Tea Time that I shared, which is the one we do most often, which is a nature tea time or an SOS outdoors tea time. We need to get outside. This is super simple. So this changes, it looks differently every time, but this time around I happened to have some leftover goodies from Mother's Day. Some were gifts from my family, some were little homemade treats that I had made for others in my family, and we had some left over. We grabbed some goldfish because who doesn't always have goldfish on hand? We had a little bit of fruit left over in the fridge, put it all together on a tray, and brought it outside. Now, we are a Minute Maid Juicy Juice family, don't get me wrong, but my kids had been wanting so badly to try homemade lemonade, so I thought this was the perfect opportunity for us to just have a little bit of fun outside and make some homemade lemonade. And then we just enjoyed reading some super simple, silly, fun, lighthearted poetry together, and it always ends up turning our day around completely. I hope you guys enjoyed this Poetry Tea Time video and that it gave you guys some relief if you thought it was too overwhelming, or that it encouraged you to try something fun and fancy if you wanted to do that as well. Like I said, it can be customized to your liking, it can be as simple as necessary, or it can be extravagant and extra special. If you guys liked this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you go check out Jessica's video in the description box below. Bye guys.